Hi, my name is Felix, and today I'm going to be talking about how surfing has been misclassified as a competitive sport. So first of all, I'm not sure how many are familiar with surfing and the competitive scene that exists, but I need some background information before I can jump into my main points. So the sport of surfing, or surfing the activity, originated in the Polynesian cultures, most notably Hawaii. And this was 500, 600 years ago. It spread outside of Hawaii and a couple other Polynesian islands in the early 20th century, and then in the 1970s, the ASP, or Association of Surfing Professionals, was created, and this was kind of the governing body for all competitive surfing. Recently, the ASP was renamed to the World Surf League, but I might be referring to those interchangeably. Now, the WSL is responsible for hosting the World Surf Tour, and that's pretty much the World Cup, or the Super Bowl of surfing. You win that, you're generally considered the best in the world. So the question whether or not surfing is really a sport is quite polarizing in the surf community itself. It might not be obvious to anyone who has just heard of surfing. There's a lot of debate whether it really qualifies as a sport or, more importantly, a competitive sport, especially now because it was just recently announced that surfing is going to be in the next Summer Olympics. So the definition of a sport is very important to my argument, and Sports Accord, which is an umbrella organization responsible for a lot of the international sporting federations, defines sport as having an element of competition, to be in no way harmful to any living creature, to not rely on equipment provided by a single supplier, and to not rely on any luck elements specifically designed into the sport. So my main points for today are that surfing didn't arise from a need for competition, unlike a lot of sports we see today. 2, the unpredictable nature of the playing field differentiates it from any other competitive sport. And lastly, the surfing competitions are scored in a manner that is too subjective to provide any usable results in determining who is the most skillful. So my first point, that surfing didn't arise from a need for competition. If you look at something like soccer, basketball, or football, or curling for that matter, pretty much any competitive sport that you see, they all arose from human need for competition. In soccer, you're playing to see who's the best, in the competitive scene. And if you look at surfing, it really didn't come from the same place. With the ancient Hawaiians, it was a lot more about the connection with the ocean, because the ocean was a very big part of their life. And today, that's still the case for a lot of people. A quote by Phil Edwards, who was one of the first professional surfers, where he states that surfing is for kicks, not crowds. This echoes this feeling that a lot of surfers have, and it's more about the feeling you get when you're surfing. You're not surfing for other people, you're surfing for yourself. My second point is that the unpredictable nature of the playing field, the ocean, differentiates it from any other competitive sport we see today. So all competitive surfing takes place in the ocean, at least right now it does. And for any of you who have ever been in the ocean, you know that it is a very unpredictable place. No two waves are going to be exactly alike, and there's a huge variance even in the competitions that size and quality of the wave. So surfer A might catch a really great wave, but surfer B might not catch a really good wave, yet they're still judged against each other. If you look at a normal competitive sport, you have a very even playing field. You're playing basketball, each team is playing on a 10-foot hoop. It's not all of a sudden that one team is playing on a 15-foot hoop and is expected to play as well as the person playing on the 10-foot hoop. My last point is that surfing competitions are very subjective in the way that they are scored. So every time a surfer catches a wave, a panel of judges decides what score that surfer should get on a few different criteria. But the problem is it's opinion based. If you look at soccer or basketball, it's not who had the prettiest goal or who had the best shot in the game. It's who had the most points. In surfing, that's not the case. It's judged completely on who had the best wave and who surfed it most effectively. And the problem is you can't really decide that. It's subjective, and if you look at a real sport, there is no subjectivity. Brian Blickenstaff, who's a staff writer for Vice Sports, wrote an article about competitive surfing. The competition itself couldn't be more subjective, based on judging preferences and wave choice, which basically comes down to opinion and luck. Later in the article, he also states, but in a world where sports tend to be pretty black and white, there are no style points in tennis, surfing can be very gray. If you think back to the definition of a sport that I had stated before, it said that no element of luck can be involved. In surfing, there is a very large margin of luck. So to quickly summarize, surfing didn't arise from a need for competition. The playing field is too unpredictable to provide a fair playing field, and the scoring is too subjective to offer any reasonable results in determining who is the best. Thank you. This is just my speech itself.
Okay.
Just the outline. I don't know if you wanted that or not.
No, I don't need that.
Okay.
Did you give me another
Yeah,
outline?
I gave you the original.
And the final graph.
Yeah.
Then I don't need that. Thank you. All right. An excellent preview. I thought you did make an effort to explain why there's controversy on this subject, so that's pretty good. The proposition, you identify it, but you do that thing that a lot of people do when they start off this speech. I'm going to show you how surfing has been misclassified. When you add that word, I'm going to show you how. Now it becomes an informative speech. You know, instead of the declarative sentence, which is surfing has been misclassified as a competitive sport, which is a claim, you're saying I'm going to give you a narrative explanation of what's going on, and that's a different kind of speech. So you want to get rid of that sort of thing. And people do that all the time. That's a frequent criticism that I will drop on folks. So you had that problem, but you had a very good preview of the structure. On the issues, I think you explained them all pretty well. I'm not sure that you're going to find that there is automatic agreement with your third point. The subjectivity of scoring is definitely true when it comes to surfing, but that there are a whole variety of sports where there's that kind of thing that goes on, and as a consequence, that'll probably be one of the places that the respondent will be looking at. You know, if you're an ice skater, or you're doing gymnastics, and or you're even boxing, that kind of thing. There's scoring that's involved there that's based on the subjectivity of experts in the field doing those sorts of things. So I'm not sure that by itself that's quite enough there. I thought the best part of your argument was the issue concerning the field of play, so to speak, and the description that there is in fact substantial difference. And I think that there's a good point on that. The first, the idea that it doesn't grow out of a need for competition, to me, that sounds like it's interesting background material, but I'm not exactly sure that it's a very good criteria for a sport. And your proof on it is non-existent. It's basically all asserted that's going on there. So you have a couple of quotes on the second and the third point. I think you need a little bit more material on that. I think you came and talked to me about it, and it would be nice if there was some scoring data or something like that you had that we could point to on these sorts of things to show exactly what you're talking about. So it just feels a little bit like it's underdeveloped when it comes to the evidence. I think everybody understands the argument you presented. It's well organized. You explained it pretty well. Proving it, I think, not quite as strong. Okay, thank you.